Alright, well, it's been a while since I've checked in with a vlog, but I've just finished up my first full week of being at school 5 days during the week, and definitely have a lot to talk about. The first thing that I want to talk about is making history interesting to 16 and 17-year-olds. This week, it really hit me that it's important to be able to connect with students, make history more relevant to their lives, and at the same time, I've realized just how different my students are than I was. Um, we are currently on the Spanish and American War, which is a fascinating and brutally complex topic that the SOLs really don't ask a lot about. But it's such important background for so much of what comes later to explain the context of everything. I worked and made one of the homeworks for the class that really, I thought it was a good homework, but it was different than what they're used to, and there were aspects of it that really confused the students. And making directions that are clear, concise, um, there's a lot less room, or I need to be a lot more specific than I was. And that's just something that's going to be a challenge, particularly when I get to make my own assessments too. Um, but the Spanish American War is a topic that I really enjoy. Um, it's also really complicated, like I said, and making it interesting to 16, 17-year-olds is a different beast than knowing it, studying it, writing papers about it, researching it. It's totally different. And that's something that I really have to get accustomed to. I went over homework on Friday and felt a little bit like the economics teacher in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Just going over homework isn't the most interesting means of instruction. I think that it's necessary to do something with the homework. That way the students will do it and see a point in doing it, and to provide the context for when I actually start teaching. But at the same time, asking questions, having students give the answers is really, really boring, both for me and for them. So that's something that I need to spice up and make a little bit more interesting. The next thing that I want to talk about is relationships and making connections with students. And this is something that I've talked about a lot this semester and last, and how important that it is to know your students, know where they're at. That way you can make your class relevant to them. Being at school 5 days has definitely helped, having conversations with students both before and after class, and not necessarily just about social studies and exactly what we've been covering. But I'm to the point now where I know a lot more of the students' names than I did at the beginning of the week, which is something that's really nice, both for me and for them. Um, and it's also one of those things that I see as being more difficult with block scheduling. Third block meets daily for 45 minutes, whereas all the other blocks meet for half it every other day. And those classes, not having seen them every day, it's been a lot harder to get to know the students. It also doesn't help that those are much larger classes. Um, but I feel pretty good with where I'm at as far as knowing the students and being able to work with them. I think the instruction aspect definitely has a lot that I need to work on during the course of the internship in order to make history work for the students. The final thing that I want to talk about today is time management in the classroom, and just how hard that pacing is. I remember back last spring, I was with the American Civic Center at the inauguration, and I'd planned out what I thought was a pretty good lesson that would take pretty much so the entire time. Thought it was an hour, but it could have been a little bit longer, a little bit less. And I remember getting through everything and thinking, wow, this went really well, and looking at my phone and seeing that I'd only taken maybe 15 or 20 minutes of the hour or whatever that I had. And pacing in the classroom is easier because you can see a clock and keep going. But at the same time, it's hard to cover everything and keep the students engaged to the bell. I know that's something that Charlie, Dr. Hicks, Matt have talked about a lot, and it's something that's really talked about extensively in many chapters of the Harry Wong book, The First Days of School. And that's an area of classroom management that I think is definitely going to take a lot of getting used to, both this year and later on. um, Being that we do have block scheduling, it's really, really hard to keep the kids engaged the entire time. We had SOL testing this week, which messed up the schedule even more, which means that the 5 different classes are quite literally all at 5 different places, several days apart between snow days and the SOL testing and everything else that's happened. The classes just aren't together. Students have missed, which means more wake up work, and there's definitely a lot of administration and organization that has to be done during the day that makes it a lot harder to start class on time and teach to the bell. Um, Being that I'm in 4 different classrooms makes things even more challenging. But I think that this is an area where I've been able to help my cooperating teacher out a lot so that she is able to spend more time working with students, getting stuff on the board, getting ready to teach, and letting me handle some of the administration. And then we will be transitioning roles, sort of switching as I take over the instruction. Next week we're co-teaching and getting a little bit further into the semester. I will be taking over a couple of the classes. There are 2 classes that she'll be keeping because they are so challenging, both in terms of student engagement, behavior concerns, as well as just all of the special needs that the class has. But I'm really looking forward to getting in full time, having true ownership over my lessons. Overwhelmed still at the amount of work that everything is, but the semester seems to be back on track and hopefully will continue to go well. Spring break for everybody else, not for student teachers. See you next week.